Good morning, everyone. It is 8:31, and we are going to call the Transportation Policy Committee to order with the slim group that we have up here. And then I'll turn it over to Michael.
We will call to order the Transportation Advisory Committee and Active Transportation Ad-hoc.
Thank you, sir. So the only course of business on here, or not business, is to listen to or have a presentation from the consultant team that's working on the MTP. And I will turn it over. It's a work session between the policy group and the Transportation Advisory Committee. And so I'll turn it over to Mr. Jones for the introduction of the consultant team.
Good morning. I would like to introduce HNTB Consultancy, and by the way, they've been in business for 110 years as our prime contractor on our long-range plan update. The corporation has been employee-owned since about 2000. They have 6,500 employees, 84 offices across the nation, and 7 here in Texas. Their long suit of clothes is working with nearly every state DOT in the nation to create transportation infrastructure that meets the unique demand of its environments while connecting people and places. So I would like to introduce Ms. Thea Ewing, Project Director, and Rebecca Pacini, Transportation Planner, to share their insight on the long-range plan work that they have been doing. In that regard, these are the things that we're going to learn today. And so I'll turn it over to Ms. Ewing.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. I'm Thea Ewing, and as David mentioned, I am with HNTB Infrastructure Solutions. I've been with them for about a year, and I know that's not really why I'm here today, but I wanted you to know I actually came from an MPO. I had a job very similar to David and Martin's about a year ago, and I've worked with my MPO and other MPOs in the Ohio area to get through the MTP process and TIP process. And really excited to work in a new environment with a new team on a challenge to get their MTP approved. So a little bit of history about metropolitan planning. After talking to David and Martin, I understand some of you are newer to the MPO planning process, so I would go over it just briefly. I don't want to bore you with all the back details, but to be a metropolitan planning organization under the federal government, you do have to have an urbanized area of a population of over 50,000 people, determined by the census, and of course that is something that you guys have. And for that agreement with the governor, 75% of that affected area has to be covered with these dollars that you ultimately bring in for transportation projects. And ultimately having a board that oversees all of that work is important, that is local. So why is it that we bring all these people together to make these decisions? It's because you bring your federal dollars back into the state and it allows you to then discern where you're going to spend those. And a lot of this came up under the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1962, and you guys came into existence in 73 after that. And since then, we've had multiple highway bills that have pushed forward multiple requirements, and they just keep piling on top of you. So I wanted to kind of point out what the key ones are that you need to work towards, and what are some of the others that will help you meet the requirements of the new federal regulations, but also help you get the projects you want to get accomplished. So the federal requirements, the blue column is the column of things that kind of came out whenever MPOs first started. And then during the FAST Act planning period in like the early 2000s, they had these additional planning factors added, like supporting economic vitality and increasing safety and security and increasing accessibility and mobility. And then most recently, With the newest transportation bill, there is more of a USDOT planning emphasis areas with some of the things that you see there, like climate, equity, and the like. So this isn't really necessarily about you guys adopting all of that per se, but also helping you just meet the requirements so that you can get your federal dollars and move forward. So that process is a 3-step process at the MPO. So the MPOs are required to do 3 things. That's it. Well, at the federal level, the states can have their own set of requirements as well. But at the federal level, you have to have a continuous, coordinated, comprehensive planning process. I like to kind of tie those back to 3 products of the MPO, which include the Unified Planning Work Program, which you work on every year. You work on this to basically kind of move things forward on an annual basis, and that's the staff planning. And then the coordinated planning, a 4-year capital improvement biannually updated, and that's where you get the money. That's the money that's getting spent on projects, and that's when you're lining things up to go. And then comprehensive, where you look at it for 20 years and update it every 4 years. You're not making financial commitments per se right there at that point in time, but it helps you line up for the tip at that time. So I'll take a pause momentarily. But so the whole idea being that you're doing something every year to plan for your annual needs. You're looking out ahead for your short-term needs, and you're also looking at your long-term needs. But you're only really making these financial commitments in those short-term 2 windows, the continuous and coordinated. So what we're here to talk about today is in the comprehensive column. However, it impacts the things in all 3. So I think that's probably the most important piece to make sure that we cover, because we're not going to be necessarily diving into the TIP discussion today, more about the MTP and the long range. So our approach to developing the MTP, not much different from that of the Lubbock MPO staff. We did take into account all the work they've done thus far. Actually, across the top of the screen, too, I have different modes of transportation. You'll see them get lighter over the course. And that's because typically in an MTP and under the federal guidance, those darker modes of transportation are the ones that typically get worked in. However, like thinking about barges, flights, and even the pipelines out here, there's still transportation that impact your system. So those things still come onto the system. We still look at those, but they're not the focus of where your money gets spent, and they're not the focus of what you're trying to fix. You're really trying to fix things on the highways, the streets, the bike trails, and walking paths. So, but also thinking about like commerce and making sure that you're supporting your economic development. So our approach is there's 2 public engagement processes, the one today, this afternoon, where we'll go over goal development, and then we'll do a virtual one in August for a final project list. We have set up a visions and goals based on the work that you previously completed, plus looking at some of the comments that have come in the past, thinking about innovation and things that you might want to do in the future. We added one to the goals. We're looking at needs and we're looking at the existing conditions of your environment. So we're looking at Lubbock County and the impacts on the MPO area, seeing what the traffic coming in and out is like, what the impact on the community is, where are the safety problems, and trying to discern where the best strategies for spending your money in the future are. Of course, that is always up to you, but you have to lay those out in order to get to the dollars. And then taking on projects that you need to address. Then we'll move into project identification, and honestly, this is where we're at today. We're just now kind of getting to that list, which makes having this meeting kind of a perfect time, because if any projects come up, they get added to the list through this process. And then we'll go through a financial constraint exercise where we look at the dollars that are anticipated to come in over the next 20 years versus what you need to spend. And spoiler alert, you always want to spend more than you're going to get. So we'll talk about the constraint around that. And then ultimately, we'll look at system performance. So once you put these projects onto the system over the next 20 years, how will the system perform? Will it perform better? And that's what the model does. It runs, you run that to see if it actually will work or not. And that way, you can say that you're making those investments towards improved system as opposed to just making like, I want a crosswalk here, right? So, and that is largely that system performance category. That's where a lot of these new federal requirements have come in over the years. Is just like, we want to make sure that we're spending the money on something that ultimately will be effective at whatever it does. So now I will go ahead and turn it over to Rebecca Pacini from our firm to talk more about the MTP update, and she's going to dive into the details. I'm kind of the overarching, and then together we'll answer any questions. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. So I'm going to present the draft goals and objectives. These are coming off of what the federal requirements are that Thea just went over, as well as meeting the statewide planning goals. So overall, the vision is the Lubbock region will be vibrant and connected communities where everyone has access to safe, affordable, reliable, and sustainable options. And so that is just checking all the boxes for the federal requirements as well as the state requirements. And the first goal is mobility for all, and that's for all modes of transportation: walking, biking, transit, and driving. And then goal 2 is improving safety, ensuring that our roadway system does not result in loss of life along our roads, and ensuring that everybody makes it home every time. And then promoting sustainability. This will address air quality as well as increase the use of alternative fuel vehicles. And ensuring accessibility is regardless of historic services as well as abilities of people using the network, that everybody is able to use it and has access to it. And finally, 2 more. Economic development. This is a large role in our regional economy. Transportation plays by providing access to jobs and services. So it's necessary that our transportation is able to get people to business. And finally, we have invest in innovation. So as the transportation sector grows and evolves, the MPO will need to adapt and innovate. This will be investing in new technology and partnerships. So these are some of the highlights from the existing conditions that we have to increase transit frequency and options, improve low-stress network for walking and biking, address high crash locations, invest in electric vehicle charging infrastructure, preserve right-of-way for corridor widening, implement transportation demand management, identify discretionary funding resources to advance projects, and implement smart traffic systems to optimize routing for buses and fleet vehicles. This is our timeline. So the last update was started in 2021, and it concluded in 2023 for the 2045 MTP. And now we are working toward the 2050 update, and that just started this summer, or in May. And then we'll continue. This is our first public meeting that we'll have tonight here in this building. And then we'll come back in September. Well, first we'll have another open house online meeting in August, and then we'll be back in September for the plan adoption. Move on. So now it'll be Martin to present on the Title VI compliance. Did y'all want to take a question or wait? Thank y'all.
A different Martin. Okay, the other components of the transportation planning process include a Title VI plan, a limited English proficiency plan, a congestion management plan, the tools that we use to get our job done. And so part of the discussion this afternoon will be the environmental justice plan. As a subrecipient of federal funds for transportation planning, 42 USC 2000 subparagraph D provides the basis for prohibition against exclusion from participation in, denial of benefits of, and discrimination under federally assisted programs on the grounds of race, color, or national origin. Implementation of that law is vested in 49 CFR 21 and 23 CFR 200.3, both of which require the MPO to comply with various non-discrimination laws, including Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Title VI forbids discrimination against any person in the United States because of race, color, or national origin by any agency receiving federal funds as a direct recipient or a subrecipient. As a subrecipient, the MPO and its modal partners, City Bus and the airport, must ensure that all its programs and activities are operated in a non-discriminating manner. In order to ensure compliancy with the law, the MPO and its modal partners must implement a system of procedures and actions that will protect against discrimination. Executive Order 12898 also makes each federal agency and associated subrecipients responsible to make achieving environmental justice part of its mission by identifying and addressing disproportionately high and adverse human health or environmental effects of its programs, policies, and activities on minority populations and low-income populations. By incorporating EJ and non-discrimination considerations into the transportation planning and decision-making process, DOT strives to ensure that transportation decision-making will enhance the quality of life for all people in America. A fundamental principle of EJ is public engagement, which we will have this afternoon, and participation in the decision-making process as it relates to fair treatment and meaningful involvement for all people. The procedures and actions must include, but not necessarily limited to, the following 9 bullet points. 9 directives, all required by law, that make up the Title VI and Limited English Proficiency Plan. Our assurances in the plan copy the standard template from the U.S. DOT Title VI non-discrimination pursuant to DOT Order 1050 that clearly states our commitment to non-discrimination in all transportation services and programs. Our non-discrimination statement and notice to beneficiaries of protection under Title VI hangs on the wall today in our office as it has hung for the last 20-odd years. The law also requires that the MPO designate a responsible liaison officer to manage that program. And that happens to be yours truly. Again, our compliant forms follow TxDOT's templates and are consistent with US DOT FHWA guidance. And we take them with us to every meeting that we host, and they are on our website, and I'm sure you've probably seen them. They're out today on the table. If we get a complaint Our plan stipulates that we inform TxDOT Legal Department within 10 calendar days for further investigation. Our plan stipulates, according to the law, a language assistance plan to assist persons whose proficiency in reading, writing, and understanding English is limited. Our plan stipulates that we will provide oral interpretation and/or written translation, whichever is appropriate, at no cost to the recipient. Our limited English proficiency plan stipulates that within 7 days advance notice, we will not only accommodate the LEAP persons, but other disabilities as well at both our TAC meeting and our policy committee meetings. USDOT Order 6640.23A establishes the policies and procedures FHWA and FTA use to implement the principles of environmental justice and collect certain data in all plans, policies, and activities. Data collection and analysis has gained greater importance with the passage of the new Justice 40 initiative to supplement the new IIJA Surface Transportation Law. Justice 40 is a new initiative implemented by Executive Order 14008, establishing a nationwide goal that 40% of the overall benefits of certain federal investments must flow to disadvantaged communities that are marginally underserved and overburdened by pollution. Pollution being defined as air, noise, light, water, land use, and other environmental considerations. The takeaway here is that highway projects and transit operations are two modes specifically enumerated to comply with Justice 40 guidance. We will continue to be sure all of our contracts contain the standard USDOT FHWA contract provisions. We will continue to honor DBE rules and regulations in the award of contracts. And as a matter of fact, this policy committee has previously adopted TxDOT's DBE plan, and it is included by reference in our public participation plan for our public outreach. In summary, the Title VI plan explains the process and tools that the MPO uses to engage various population elements and involve them in the planning process and provide them meaningful access to the transportation system. It also explains how the MPO and partner modal agencies minimize the risk of undue impacts of transportation system projects on vulnerable populations and ensures equity not only in the planning process, but also in accessing the transportation network so that all people will be able to get where they need to go to work, shopping, medical, recreation, education, exercise, whatever, using the mode of transportation most accessible to them. This includes any combination of walking, biking, and especially public transportation or transit. Now we're going to talk about the limited English proficiency part of that plan. As far as the limited English proficiency plan is concerned, it is a complementary strategy required by law as part of the Title VI process to mitigate identified discrimination. Executive Order 13166 basically establishes that disparate treatment of anyone who has limited ability to speak, write, read, or understand English is a type of national origin discrimination. Our LEAP plan must address a strategy to offer help to mitigate that discrimination. Our plan outlines how to identify someone who may need language assistance, the ways that assistance may be provided, and how to notify LEAP persons that help is available. And by the way, there is no charge for any of this help. The plan will help us identify meaningful access to the transportation system as well as provide language assistance. Steps to the plan also sets out that the MPO will take all reasonable steps to provide this assistance at no charge to the LEAP person. Now we are going to talk quickly about congestion management. As to the congestion management plan, another required component to the transportation planning process. As to the congestion management plan, we wanted to take the opportunity of the updated long-range plan to refresh our congestion management plan so that all component pieces of the planning process would be fresh and in order at the same time. In addition to updating the plan, our advertising noted that we intended to reaffirm our 1.25 measure of congestion delay that this body established back in June 2021. Over the next 45 days, we'll analyze strategies to improve our system performance by reducing congestion impacts on the network. We will take a look at the annual hours of peak hour delay and travel time reliability. And if you're wondering if the congestion management plan really impacts travel demand and the long-range planning process, here are just a few of the lawful citations that control the development of the congestion management plan. Lastly, according to FHWA guidance, the CMP, or Congestion Management Plan, will address these recommended actions that we will be ready to discuss in our meeting this afternoon. Here in this slide, it talks about how to submit comments. It shows the end of the 45-day comment period is July 18th. Did you ladies want to say anything about making comments?
Yeah.
Come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing notable here is we have the form, we have an email away, and then we also have a sub-consultancy, Puznicki Camarillo, who will be handling everything and compiling it for us. So even those that you guys receive, they can kind of package that all up, and we can help summarize that real nicely. So thanks.
That ends our presentation. The consultants will answer questions. This meeting today was in preparation for our public meeting this afternoon. We hope you all can attend, and we'll answer questions.
Thank you for that. Any questions from the committee here? I did have a question about the goals that were identified. Are the goals in there, are those the goals that this board adopted several years ago? Are those newer goals that have been established or proposed goals? What are those, the goals?
These are all newer goals, and they address the national, go ahead.
Yeah. So, yeah, they were derived from previous ones, right? We did use so they were derived initially from that initial list, and then we had objectives. The objectives more line up with the national requirements more so than the goals, but you have to have that overarching goal to get to the objectives. We did add one, the innovation one. The last one is a new one. That is to allow you to take advantage of more of the funding, because that innovation
funding innovative, I think of there's carbon neutrality funds, right? Well, if you don't want to spend them maybe on electric vehicle charging, you might be able to use them on lane maintenance, as far as being able to do controlled systems or things like that help move traffic faster, as opposed to maybe something you didn't want to do, right? So it allows for more trade-offs when you have a broader set of goals. So,
Okay.
all right.
And then just for clarification purposes, this process, the MTP, is scheduled to be approved by September.
Yes, that is our goal, is to make sure that you are set to move forward and federally compliant in September, which means we have to have everything going by August with that last public engagement meeting. Right now, we are on track with that process, and the team here has been wonderful to work with.
Excellent. Okay. Any other questions from here? TAC committee, questions, comments? None?
Well, we're going to be here all day, and if you do have any time to talk to us, we're glad to talk to you about your projects or needs, and then we'll be here at the public engagement as well. So thank you all. We're really glad to be part of your day today.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for being here, ladies. Martin.
We just also wanted to be able to make sure that everybody understood that as part of the public process, we do have today's meeting at 3 o'clock. It will be going between 3 and 6. We also have started a public online outreach, and we've already attended the Chamber of Commerce of Economic Development, what was that? Convention. The convention that happened about 3 weeks ago. Based off of those different public outreaches that we have done, to date we've collected almost 200 surveys where people have identified what projects they like, concerns they have, transportation mode issues, and things like that. We will be providing that information back over to HT&B, and they will be compiling that all together with some of the public outreach that they will receive today. And so you will be getting a robust information here in the future.
I did have one last clarification, because this question came to me, but sending mailed comments to the Lubbock MPO in San Antonio is the accurate place to do that?
It is. What we're doing is we're trying to centralize all that data to go through our consultant team. And so they will be processing, compiling, and giving you insight into all the comments. And to help facilitate the timing of that, instead of receiving them at the MPO, having our limited staff process that, we are sending it directly to them, so that way they can compile and process on our behalf. The electronic surveys are coming directly into the MPO website, and then we are taking those. Once we close those, we will be exporting them out into an Excel sheet and providing those digitally back over to our consultant team. Just with mail, it takes a lot more manpower to review each one of those comments, to input them in electronically, and then to be able to process them. And so we're trying to help facilitate the timing by sending them directly to them.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. Any last parting comments, questions, concerns from the group?
I have questions.
Ms. McDonald.
I wanted to be sure about the time this afternoon. The attachment that we got said 3:30 to 5:30, and you just said 3 to 6.
3:30 to 5:30.
Thank you.
Over at the other building, not here.
Thank you.
And what's that address? 916 Main Street. Is it the county building in the
County Annex building.
in the first
the
floor
other end
lobby?
of the Sky Bridge.
Okay.
Across the street from the courthouse. In the bank lobby, first floor.
Excellent. Very good. 3:30 to 5:30 this afternoon. And all the project sponsors will be there. Okay. If there's nothing else, then we will adjourn the policy committee. And
Thank you
see
for
you this
your
afternoon.
time.
Thank you much.
Always
Appreciate it.
appreciate you being here.